We are going to have a conversation here to address a rather big question. Who will inherit the world? We will start off by talking about the past and slowly move on to maybe being able to answer or slightly answer that great question. But we have two men here who have addressed the issue of colonialism in from different angles. Timothy Snyder is an American historian. He has written several widely read books on a variety of issues. He's an expert on the Second World War and Eastern Europe. Kamel Daoud is an Algerian writer, journalist, columnist, and also a novelist. And you can find their books over there towards the end. We have approximately 45 minutes, so we'll just start, I think, to try to get down to it. Okay, Snyder. In your book, Road to Unfreedom, you write about a false tale or myth about the European Union and the nation states, and that this tale made it possible, maybe, for the European states to not remember its colonial past. What is this tale or this myth that is present in Europe today?
Ok, alors on va parler la langue hégémonique, mais je voulais dire que si je parle la langue hégémonique comme langue maternelle, ça veut dire que je n'ai pas un endroit où je peux être seul. Okay, I just wanted to see who was going to laugh if I made a joke in France. But it's true. Everything has its other side. So my native language is a universal language, but that really does mean that I have no place to go home, linguistically. You do, I don't. Everything has its other side. So the story that Europeans tell themselves is that they have a long history as nations on the territory of Europe, and that in the 20th century, as a result of learning about war, they decided that economic cooperation was better than conflict and formed the European Union. This is a nice story that in the book I call the fable of the wise nation. Nation that is old and that has learned and now is peaceful. What the story does is that it confuses the Second World War with wars of colonialism in general. The story of Europeans is not that they learned from the Second World War that war is bad. The story of Europeans is that eventually they lost the technological advantages which allowed them to win colonial wars. That's a much less gratifying story, but it has the virtue of being true. The Second World War was chiefly a war of Germany against the Soviet Union. It was a colonial war in the very precise sense that the German leadership wished to treat the Western Soviet Union, Ukraine, as colonial territories to be exploited. Hitler constantly compared Ukraine to India, America, Africa. The defeat of Germany in the Second World War should therefore be understood as the most significant, the most categorical defeat of a European power in a colonial war. Because, of course, it turned out that the Soviet peoples were not technologically inferior, especially when they were driving American cars. No, that's a part of the war that everyone forgets. So if we think of the Second World War as a colonial war, then it falls into a different history. The Germans lose a war in Ukraine in 1945. The Dutch lose a war in the East Indies in 1949. The Belgians have to give up the Congo in 1960. De Gaulle shifts from Algeria to Europe, from empire to Europe in 1962. The British, looking on at this in the 1960s, realized that Europe is where you can go after empire. The Portuguese and the Spanish in the 1970s, when they can no longer sustain their African empires, also go to Europe. That's the true story. It's not a story of nations learning from war. It's a story of imperial states losing wars. And in this light, the European Union is less a virtuous choice by wise nations and more a kind of existential necessity that allowed European states to maintain their standard of living in a situation where that really shouldn't have happened. Because you see, the history of empire up until the European Union is a history of decline and fall. When you lose your empire, the enemies come to your capital and they destroy it, and they destroy everything, and your civilization perishes. This is the story of every empire up until Europe. The Europeans cheat history. Sorry, you cheat history. You lose your technological advantage, you lose your empire, but you find a safe landing in Europe. Now, the reason why this mistake is so important is that it allows Europeans to escape responsibility. I don't just mean moral responsibility, I also mean responsibility for the future, because the rest of the world is still characterized by imperial power relationships, whether those have to do with China or Russia or America or Amazon or Google or Facebook. Much of the rest of the world is still structured in an imperial way. The European Union is imperial management. It's a way of dealing with empire. It's the only way that anyone has ever found to deal with empire. And if you see the European Union that way, then you realize the European Union, and by the European Union, by the way, I also mean you guys. Don't say like, oh, well, we're not technically members. We just pay money and we get to hunt whales. Give me a break. By the European Union, I mean Switzerland and Norway and the European Union as such. It means that the European Union actually has the possibility to deal with the challenges of, let's call it, the imperial future. Europeans don't see how much responsibility and how much power they actually still have because they tell themselves this story. The story is, we're just nice, small, medium-sized nation states. We love peace. As opposed to the reality, which is, you ruled the world for 500 years and you found the only institution that actually can deal with empire.
Thank you. Daoud, can I ask you, what about, now we heard about the tale or the fable in Europe about its colonial past, or not the colonial past. What about Algeria? Is there a tale about, or a fable about called the colonial past that exists today?
Bonjour. Il n'y a que ça. Il n'y a que cette fable, justement. Il n'y a pas de discours alternatif à cette fable sur l'histoire. Je suis l'enfant d'un pays qui a mené une guerre de décolonisation. Cela aboutit généralement à transformer le pays en une sorte de musée des décolonisations, où la seule idée valable, le seul récit, c'est le récit de la guerre d'indépendance.
Good morning. Hello, good morning. There is only this. This is the only fable we have. There is no alternative discourse on history and on this fable. I am the child of a country where we had a war of decolonization, and this means that the country became a museum for decolonization, and this is the only story we have.
Le pays est encore propriété de ce récit de décolonisation et d'une caste de ce que moi j'appelle les décolonisateurs en chef. C'est-à-dire, c'est une génération qui a mené la guerre, mais qui maintenant dit « ce pays m'appartient parce que je l'ai libéré ». Et cela fait que nous sommes dans une situation de blocage total jusqu'à il y a 3 mois. Deuxième point, c'est qu'il ne s'agit pas d'une histoire historienne, mais d'une histoire fabulée, d'une histoire fétichisée. C'est-à-dire, en Algérie, il n'y a pas beaucoup de musées, les historiens ne parlent pas beaucoup, mais nous devons avoir le culte d'une histoire vidée d'elle-même, vidée de son sens. Et ce culte se transmet, sert de légitimité politique, domine le discours officiel, domine le récit national, domine tout. Nous n'avons pas de voix à la parole. Le seul moyen de parler de l'Algérie autrement que par le récit de l'histoire, c'est de faire de la littérature.
Yes. This country is now has now this tale as a proprietor, which means that we have what I call a caste of decolonization in chief. And these people have led the war, and they say now the country is mine because I liberated it. And we ended up in this total blockade until 3 months ago. And second point is that we don't really have a historic history in Algeria. It's more like a fetishized history. We don't really have many museums, historians don't talk a lot, but we have a history that is empty in a way, because it goes into a kind of a cult. And this cult is transmitted to the later generation. It dwells into the political legitimacy, it dominates the official discourse, and also the national tale. And we don't really have a voice. The only way we can speak about history is through literature.
Je suis un écrivain qui voyage beaucoup aussi, et j'ai découvert que cet enfermement dans le statut de décolonisé permanent n'est pas seulement une volonté du régime politique sous lequel je vis, mais il est aussi le regard d'autrui. Quand je voyage dans le reste du monde, on me pose des questions comme si je venais de terminer la guerre de libération, juste hier. On me pose des questions non en tant qu'écrivain, mais en tant que décolonisé. Et dès que j'essaie de sortir de ce casting du décolonisé, il y a malaise. On me demande de parler de la guerre que je n'ai pas vécue. Je suis né bien plus tard. On ne n'autorise pas à parler du présent, ni dans mon pays, ni ailleurs. Les rares fois où j'ai commencé, les débuts, j'ai commencé à parler de sortir du post-colonial, j'ai eu des adversités dans mon pays, mais aussi des adversités en Occident, là où le post-colonial est devenu une rente universitaire, une rente éditoriale, une rente de confort. C'est-à-dire, chaque fois que j'écris un livre, on ne me pose pas la question comme si on l'a posée à Dostoïevski. On me pose la question comme si j'étais Frantz Fanon. C'est-à-dire, est-ce que vous avez eu mal pendant la guerre? Je n'ai pas vécu la guerre. Pourquoi vous parlez, est-ce que vous pouvez nous expliquer la décolonisation? Je fais des romans pour parler de la condition humaine. Pourquoi, lorsque Robinson se noie, ça donne un roman, et lorsque Vendredi se noie, ça donne un fait divers?
I am a writer who travels a lot, and I'm always locked inside this status of a decolonized person. And I am locked in this status both by my regime and by the other. And it is as if I am always asked questions about the liberation of my country, as it was the case yesterday. I am not asked questions as a writer, but as somebody who went through decolonization. And if I try to speak of something else than decolonization, then that creates a sort of discomfort. I was born after the war, and yet people keep asking me about the war. And it is as if it is forbidden to talk about the present, both in my country and elsewhere. When I try to talk about something else than the war and decolonization in my country and in the Western countries, because post-colonialism has become a kind of a university, it brings money to the university, it's a comfort in a way. And when I write a book, I am not asked a question as if I was Dostoevsky. People keep asking me, did you hear during the war? But I was born after the war. I haven't been through it. And I keep getting asked a question about, can you explain decolonization when I try to write novels about the human condition? And my question is, why when Robinson drowns, it makes a whole novel, and when Friday drowns, it's just something in the newspaper?
Et en dernier, justement, cette répartition entre État, Empire, elle ne me laisse pas de l'espace. Je suis un décolonisé, et c'est ce que je refuse. Je ne suis plus un décolonisé, ni un décolonisateur. Je revendique le statut d'être un écrivain japonais, moi aussi. Et pour répondre à votre question, toute ma volonté, toute ma subjectivité, tout ce que j'essaie d'écrire, c'est justement pour sortir de l'histoire, pour avoir droit au présent. Je ne parle même pas du futur. Et pour assumer la responsabilité du présent, et construire une éthique par rapport à ma responsabilité. Ne plus expliquer mon monde par le tout colonial. Ne plus vivre ce rapport à l'autre comme un rapport de tension ou de violence ou d'histoire, mais un rapport de vis-à-vis, de présence, de partage. C'est ce que je voudrais. Je me méfie beaucoup des historiens dans mon pays. Beaucoup.
As far as this state and empire question is concerned, I have no space there as a decolonized. But I claim the fact that I am a decolonizer because I want to be a Japanese writer too, in a way. I have a right to say that I am. And all my will, all my subjectivity is to come out of history, to have a right to the present. My ethics, my responsibility is not to see the others under this colonial scope with violence, tension, and history. It is to see the others with presence, with sharing, with a vis-à-vis. And for these reasons, I distrust historians in my country.
Et en dernier, je me suis toujours posé la question, à quoi me sert le récit de l'histoire dans mon pays? À quoi sert l'histoire? Elle ne me sert pas à comprendre, mais elle sert à garder le pouvoir pour une caste. Elle sert à ne pas se souvenir, paradoxalement. C'est une histoire du non-souvenir. C'est une histoire de l'amnésie. C'est une histoire de l'accaparation du passé. Ce passé qui me tue, qui me refuse ma présence au monde. Donc, l'histoire est une fiction, comme tout le reste, mais c'est une fiction qui tue. Et je refuse que cette fiction me tue et tue ma présence au monde.
And the tale of history in my country, the question is, what is the purpose of it? And it doesn't serve a purpose to remember, but it serves a caste, and it serves this caste to keep power. And it is a way of not remembering, actually. And history is a non-remembrance. It is amnesia in my country. It is this acceptation of the past that kills me. And history is a fiction, like everything else, but it is a history that kills, and this I refuse.
Do you have any comment to what he said? There seems to be a big imbalance between the myths in the EU and the myths in Algeria.
So let me start by saying something about history, because I quite agree about the capacity of history to kill. I would add that literature and poetry can also kill. The question is, what is history? So, as a historian, I think of history as something which ideally is pursuing truths that are general and that are recognizable from any point of view. So if I write something that only an American can understand, or only an Algerian can understand, or only a Norwegian can understand, then it's probably not history. Another feature of history is that it's always completely unpredictable. It's just as unpredictable as literature, if not more so. If you actually try to figure out what happened in the past, you'll always be surprised, because it will always be different, not only than what you were told, but different from what you would have thought possible. And it's for this reason that I think that history, when it's done well, when it's done properly, is actually liberating, and indeed indispensable for freedom, because freedom has everything to do with unpredictability. So for me then, there's a tremendous difference between what I would call history and what I would call memory. I use memory to mean, I think, what Kamel Daoud meant by history, or les historiens de son pays. Memory is always personal, right? You can say, I remember, we remember, but you can't say, I history and we history, right? Memory is always personal, and memory is always about forgetting, chiefly. It's always about forgetting the things that don't fit the story. And here we can see the connection between what Kamel Daoud says about memory in Algeria and what I've said about memory in Europe. There is a profound commonality. And the commonality is you use the past, you use memory as a way to evacuate responsibility. So if you say, I am decolonized, then you're saying something happened in the past which evacuates my responsibility for the present forever. If you say, I was just a small nation state that was overwhelmed by war and then learned that war was bad, that evacuates your responsibility for your actual history forever. The commonality is making yourself smaller than you are. And the commonality is also a summons back into a past where you were always innocent and the evil came from the outside, right? That's the decolonization story, but it's also the story of every populist party inside Europe. It's exactly the same.
Would you like to comment on what?
C'est très vrai, c'est très juste.
Okay.
Non, ce que je voulais aussi rappeler, c'est que j'ai grandi aussi dans un espace où on parlait toujours de deux personnages, le colonisateur et le colonisé. On a oublié un acteur majeur, c'est ce que j'appelle moi le décolonisateur. C'est celui qui a mené cette guerre ou celui qui profite de la légitimité de cette guerre d'indépendance. Ce décolonisateur a été souvent la catastrophe des pays qui ont le même parcours que mon propre pays. C'est une génération qui refuse la transmission, la filiation, qui refuse d'avoir des enfants et qui refuse la transition politique. Le décolonisateur en chef a été une figure qui n'a pas été, à mon avis, assez analysée dans notre présent, dans la construction du récit national. Je suis d'accord quand vous faites distinction entre le souvenir et l'histoire, mais le décolonisateur en chef est cette subjectivité qui fait la confusion entre les deux pour réviser l'histoire en fonction de son propre souvenir ou même de son faux souvenir de lui-même. J'adore un grand roman, 1984 de Orwell, qui est un classique dans le genre, qui montre comment cette histoire-là, comment on travaille l'archive, comment on travaille le souvenir, comment on travaille le récit objectif de l'histoire en fonction de la subjectivité de celui qui détient la légitimité politique et le pouvoir politique. Et donc, c'est cette figure des décolonisateurs qui est importante, qui fait la fausse jonction la jonction artificielle et abusée du souvenir, de l'histoire et de la mémoire.
Yeah.
Yes, I completely agree with it. It's perfectly true. I remind you that I grew up in a country where we had two figures, one the colonizer and the other one the colonized. And we often forget about the decolonizer, which is a figure who has been at war, who is now reaping the fruits of the legitimacy that the war gave them. And this figure is a catastrophe, is a disaster for many countries such as mine who have the same history. Because these people refuse the transmission, they refuse filiation, they do not want to have children, and they refuse a political transition. And also this decolonizer-in-chief is not always, well, it is not always doing in this, enough in this construction of the, it is always changing history into his own memory. So I agree with what was said between the tale and the history, the memory and the history, and between the two, so the decolonizer-in-chief changes history according to his own memories, and also it could be his own fake memories. And I love this book, 1984 by Orwell, which shows very well how history, with work in archives, in memories, and the tale, is changing objective history through the people who are holding the power and their own subjectivity. And this is where you can see the junction between the memory, history, and the souvenirs. Thank you.
Snyder, you wanted to follow up?
Yes. So there's a very interesting commonality here again, because what European countries do with history is also to compartmentalize it nationally. There isn't, despite the fact that there's a European Union, there is actually no European history. There's no common base of knowledge in Europe. There isn't mutual history. History actually is the invisible wall that keeps Europeans apart, and in moments of stress causes political problems. A number of European countries actually have memory ministries whose sole task is to generate a story of the past which keeps other Europeans out. So for example, in Poland, the memory ministry is much bigger than the Ministry of Education. And it's set up in such a way as to create a memory which is literally comprehensible for other people. It's only comprehensible for us. Another commonality has to do with the story of the present and the future. If you think about the European story, not the Norwegian story, which I realize has other fun things in it, like Vikings and so on, but if you think about the European story also comes from the 1950s and 1960s. The European story is a story of the grandfathers and the great-grandfathers. It's a story about how we experienced war and then we made the right decisions afterwards. There's some truth in the story, but it doesn't really work in 2019. It's really striking how the Europeans don't have a story about the present. So you probably have better lives than anybody who has ever existed on the planet, but you have no way of talking about it. And you have an enormous amount. Whoa, everyone sat up. Okay.
Yeah.
you have an enormous amount of power over the future. I mean, probably more than China and America. But because you have no story which confirms that, you're not aware of it. So I'm just trying to say this is another commonality, that by dwelling in the 1950s and 1960s, your memory keeps you away from a sense of what the present is and what the future might be.
Yeah. Daoud, I wanted to ask you also, because the French president, Macron, he has made some steps in acknowledging the French crimes in Algeria recently. And you wrote recently a piece about that in the New York Times. And what does that mean? And does that help Algeria at all getting out of the post-colonial state?
Alors, je vais peut-être préciser deux choses avant de répondre à votre question. Il était convenu que l'on parle de qui héritera de la terre. Et c'est vrai, c'est une question qui est importante. Mais je voulais d'abord préciser que c'est une fausse question par rapport à nos perspectives au Sud. Et par rapport aux décolonisateurs, je reviens sur cette figure. La question, la vraie, ce n'est pas qui héritera de la terre, c'est à qui appartient la terre. Et ça aboutit à l'autre question, qui l'a libérée? Puisque c'est moi le décolonisateur qui l'a libérée, donc la question ne se pose pas. J'hérite de la terre pour toujours. Et donc on est dans un cercle qui est clos, qui est fermé. Maintenant, deuxième point. Je viens aussi d'un espace où le seul moyen, et là je réponds à M. Steiner, d'avoir une histoire, c'est d'avoir fait une guerre. Et la question qui se pose, peut-on avoir une histoire si on n'a pas fait une guerre? C'est une question qui se pose un peu partout, y compris ici. Donc, je vais laisser traduire.
Two things before I answer your question. The theme of today is who shall inherit the earth? And for me, it's an important question, but it's also a fake question in a way from my own perspective in the South. And the question is who owns the earth? And then who shall liberate the earth as a consequence? And I, as a decolonizer, I will automatically inherit the earth. So this is not a question, and we are there trapped in a closed circle. And the second point to pick up on what Mr. Snyder was saying, history comes from the war in my country. And can we have a history if no war was made? That's the question.
Le président français a fait un grand pas quand il a reconnu que Odin a été capturé, torturé et tué par l'armée française durant la guerre de libération. Qui est Maurice Odin? C'est un jeune communiste, mathématicien, qui était algérien d'origine française, qui a été capturé par l'armée française, qui a été tué par l'armée française. Et toute l'histoire, le récit de l'histoire en France a été de dire que ce n'est pas vrai, jusqu'à ce qu'arrive Macron pour reconnaître le crime et reconnaître le rapt et le meurtre.
Yes, the French president has made a great step when he recognized that Maurice Audin had been captured and tortured and killed by the French army in Oran. Maurice Audin used to be a young communist. He was also a mathematician. He was Algerian and from French parents, and he had been captured and killed by the French army. And up to now, the position had been to say that is not true. But Macron recognized that the crime had taken place and that Maurice Audin had been captured and killed.
Je me rappelle que lorsque Macron a fait cette déclaration, le New York Times, ils m'ont demandé est-ce que je peux faire un article sur les réactions en Algérie qui vont être très fortes. Et j'ai répondu que vous vous trompez, il n'y aura pas de réaction. Parce qu'ils étaient un peu étonnés, pourquoi? C'est quand même un grand pas. Macron a pu faire ce pas parce qu'il n'appartient pas à la guerre, enfin la génération qui a fait la guerre d'Algérie. Il en est libre, comme j'en suis libre. Mais j'ai dit qu'en Algérie, il n'y aura pas de réaction. L'explication est très simple. Le souvenir, la mémoire, l'histoire sont le fond du commerce de l'élite politique. Si on leur enlève le prétexte du texte de l'histoire, qu'est-ce qu'il va leur rester? Donc, cette caste a intérêt à ce que la guerre dure indéfiniment. Lorsqu'on ne fait pas la guerre aux Français, qu'est-ce qu'on va faire? On va tourner en rond. Ou bien on sera obligé d'assumer le présent et de construire un pays. Et l'article que j'ai fait dans le New York Times, c'était à peu près cette idée. Qu'est-ce qui va se passer lorsque la France s'excusera? Ou lorsque tous les décolonisateurs, les colonisateurs s'excuseront? Qu'est-ce qui va se passer? Est-ce la fin de l'histoire? Et il n'y a pas eu de réaction. Et ce pas qui était très important n'a pas été suivi par une reconnaissance algérienne de leur part d'histoire commune, des parts de violence communes, des parts des douleurs subies ou infligées entre les deux pays. C'est ce que je voulais dire au début en disant que sortir de l'histoire vous impose une responsabilité que beaucoup ne peuvent pas assumer, parce qu'ils n'ont que ça. Si on leur enlève ça, qu'est-ce qu'ils vont faire?
Yes, Macron had made this declaration, and then the New York Times asked me to write an article because they thought there would be great reactions in Algeria. And I said, no, that is not going to happen. There will be no reaction. And they were a little bit surprised because that was a great step by President Macron. And yes, President Macron could make this declaration because he is not a child of the war, he is free from the war. But as I predicted, in Algeria there were no reactions because the history, the memory is the only thing that the elite, the political elite has, and that's their pretext. If you take away their pretext of history, what is left then? That means if you take that away from them, they are trapped in a circle. They will have to think about the present and build a country. So they have an interest in keeping the war on forever with France. And what happens, my article was about what happens when the French will present their apologies, when all decolonization countries will apologize. Will that be the end of history? Because, as I said, there were no reactions in Algeria. The steps were not followed on the Algerian side to do their part, to recognize the violence, the sufferings that had happened on both sides, whether they were inflicted or got from them. And if you want the political elite to come out of history, it is very difficult for many of them because the question is, what is left for them if you take that away from them?
La seule réaction que j'ai notée, elle était quand même complexe, mais très bien calculée. C'est celle des partis islamistes, qui sont en quête de légitimité. Et le seul moyen d'avoir de la légitimité, c'est d'avoir fait une guerre. Mais puisqu'ils n'ont pas fait cette guerre, ils cherchent à se l'accaparer. Donc il y a eu une réaction d'un chef de parti islamiste qui a dit cette phrase qui est très profonde. Il a dit oui, mais la victime s'appelle Maurice Audin, c'est-à-dire un nom français. C'est-à-dire, cela pousse à réinterpréter le récit national comme un récit manichéen. C'est entre Algériens, Arabes, entre guillemets, et Français. Et si Macron s'est excusé, c'est parce qu'il s'agissait d'un Français, pas d'un Arabe, entre guillemets. Et le seul moyen, le seul décolonisateur réel, il doit être arabe, entre guillemets, et musulman. C'est une façon d'essayer de tirer vers soi le récit national et de pousser le débat sur l'islamité de la guerre d'indépendance, ce qui est un débat totalement faux, qui n'a jamais existé, mais qui maintenant, insidieusement, est en train d'être construit par les nouveaux populistes chez nous pour dire que cette guerre n'était pas une guerre de décolonisation uniquement, mais c'était aussi une guerre sainte.
The only reaction that I noted, and it was a complex one and very well calculated, it came from an Islamist party, because they are trying to have their own legitimacy, because they did not do the war, and since they have not done the war, they have no legitimacy. And the leader of the Islamist party said, yes, but Audin is a French name. He reinterpreted the whole thing as a Manichaean story. You have the Algerians on one side and the French on the other side. And Macron only apologized because this was a French person. They claim also, the Islamists, that the only real decolonizer is the Arab, the Muslim. So they are trying to attract the national story to their own ideas. And this is new in the debate about the war. This has not been the case before. It's coming insidiously from the new populists, saying that the war was not just a decolonization war, it was also a holy war.
Maybe we should try to move on to the future, because I see that we have limited time left, unfortunately. But Sneijder, how can we get out of this? You talked yesterday about the death of the future, optimistically, and how is it possible to move forward? And yeah.
Much, yeah. So much of what we have both been talking about is what I call in the book the politics of eternity. So instead of actually caring about the complexity of the past, we divide the past into us and them, where we are innocent and we have a monopoly on the good. And this is a very comfortable position for all the reasons that Kamel Daoud has given. He asks the question, the rhetorical question, what happens if all the colonizers apologize? I'm going to ask a different rhetorical question, which is, what happens if all the authoritarian regimes fall? What happens if no one has history and everyone just has memory? What happens if we think that we are always good and it's the others who are always evil? Is a transition to democracy possible in those conditions? I think the answer is no. I think if even if authoritarian regimes go, if their legacy is a national memory which divides good and evil along national or religious or any other lines, democracy can then not be constructed, which is why I think history in the broad sense is so very important. Because if we don't have a history which includes other people and which includes the habit of questioning ourselves, it's very hard to build new kinds of institutions. The people who challenged authoritarianism in Europe in the 20th century, some of the most interesting ones, like, for example, Solzhenitsyn in Russia or Václav Havel in Czechoslovakia, they both said something very interesting, which is that the line between good and evil runs through the heart of each person. That's a way to begin thinking about history as opposed to thinking about memory. So my answer to the question, and I know it's not the only answer, but my answer to the question is that if we want to have a future at all, we have to be able to think about the past in a way which is broad and critical and unpredictable. Kamel Daoud cited Orwell. Orwell was strongly influenced by a book by Zamyatin, which was called We. Zamyatin was a Russian, and Orwell had read Zamyatin's We. If you read Zamyatin's We, you'll be struck by how similar 1984 actually is to this book. But in Zamyatin's book, everyone has been given a number. We've all been digitalized. You know, there is no future. But the protagonist, when he talks about what freedom is, he says, the new, the improbable, the unpredictable. And it's my firm belief that we will only have the new, the improbable, the unpredictable in the future if we know how to look for it also in the past.
Thank you. What about you? How do you believe it's possible to get out of this and into the future?
Là aussi, la question se pose dans les deux sens. Je dois libérer le présent du passé, mais je dois libérer le futur du post-futur. Qu'est-ce que le post-futur? C'est le paradis. C'est l'idée que tout va aller mieux au paradis. C'est ce que j'appelle moi le paradisme. J'ai un souci de l'écologie, mais au paradis. J'ai un souci de jouissance de mon corps, mais au paradis. Je rencontre l'amour et l'orgasme, mais au paradis. Le poids du post-futur est terrible. Donc, la bataille est double. Il faut d'abord se battre pour le présent. Un jour, je vais penser au futur. Mais pour le moment, je dois me libérer du passé et du post-futur.
Yeah, the question goes in both ways. First, I must liberate myself from the present. I must liberate the present from the past, and the future from the post-future. And what do I call post-future? It is paradise, and even what I would call paradism. I will think about the environment, but in paradise I will have joy in my body, but in paradise I will have love and orgasm, but in paradise. So the weight of the post-future is terrible. And this is a double fight that I have to do. It's first the present from the past, and then I will think about the future and post-future.
Cette idée du paradisme peut paraître comme peut-être accessoire ou étonnante quand on est ici, mais elle est obsessionnelle dans nos géographies. Elle touche la grande majorité. Tout le monde rêve du paradis, mais pas le paradis que nous construisons avec nos mains. Non, le paradis de la récompense, le paradis gratuit. C'est le paradis qui vient après la mort. Et plus on avance dans le temps, plus je vois que ce paradisme devient quelque chose de très puissant et de très pesant et qui touche toutes les élites quasiment. Mais c'est quelque chose dont on ne parle pas, qu'on n'évoque pas parce que c'est de l'ordre de l'évidence, non seulement de la croyance, mais même de l'utopisme. Toute histoire a besoin d'une guerre, je disais tout à l'heure, mais elle a besoin d'une utopie. Donc la guerre, nous l'avons déjà. L'utopie, ce sont d'autres familles politiques qui sont en train de la proposer.
Paradism can seem like a surprising notion here in this country, but I can tell you that it is an obsession in our countries. Everybody dreams about paradise, and it's not a paradise that we build with our own hands. It is a reward you get for free after your death. And paradism is becoming extremely powerful, and it weighs a lot among all the elites. And we do not talk about it because it's obvious. It's not just a belief, but it is obvious that it's there, and it's a kind of utopism. And I was telling earlier about the war bringing legitimacy to politics, and utopia comes from different political families at the moment.
I'm afraid that we have to stop now because there are several arrangements later that you might want to go to. So I wish we could continue a bit longer with this, for me, really interesting conversation. So thank you very much, Kamel Daoud and Timothy Snyder, for contributing today. And thank you all for coming.
Merci à vous. Merci beaucoup. Thank you. Merci. Thank you.